Welcome to another edition of Fight Court. I'm Dean Thomas, joined with my man, all the way in South Florida, Ryan Quinn. What's going on with you, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. We're all the way in South Florida. Where are you?
Well, I had to clarify that you were in South Florida because I am in Vegas, which leads me to my very first topic of today. I'm in Vegas right now. Now, as you know, I don't know if you know, but I will just kind of put this out there. I've been training Sean Brady for a while. I helped him train for his Kelvin Gastelum fight, and now I helped him train for Gilbert Burns. So I've been in Vegas the last couple of days. I'm with him all week. I'm actually working the desk as well. So I'm going to corner him in the main event and then quickly change my clothes and jump into the hot seat at the end to discuss the fights, which was going to be it's going to be something that's never been done before. So I'm looking forward to that. But that brings me to my first topic. So me and Sean, we've become good friends. But prior to that, I did an episode of Dean's Diaries, which is a show that the UFC used to produce. I did an episode of that with Gilbert Burns, and he's just, a sweetheart of a human being, really good human being. And I worked with him. So, I found a liking to him. I like his work ethic. I like his style. And we worked together a few times. And now he finds himself on the opposite side of the cage against me. And sometimes that makes people feel some type of way. Now, I did call him. Okay, I ain't gonna lie. I text him. And, you know what I'm saying? I ain't want to be intrusive. But we did, I said, hey, man, listen, I train Brady now. I've been training Brady for a year, like almost 2 years. And I just wanted to make sure it was good. And he said, no, we good. And I think Gilbert is a professional. Like when it comes to this, he understands competition and he is a professional. But it's still sometimes kind of awkward, right? When you're faced up against somebody who you have a relationship with and or have been cool with. And I want to ask you, have you had that situation happen to you before?
No, the closest thing I've ever had was I had to fight friends. I mean, I've had to coach against other friends who were coaches. I've never had a friend or someone I had a relationship with coach against me. I've had people I've known in the other corner, but nobody that I've had a relationship with. I find that we, especially in this day and age where there's so much cross training and people jump in gyms and everything like that, I feel we tend to make too big a deal out of that. Especially at that level, we're a mainstream sport. How many times, and we kind of have a relative conversation about this over and over again, where the comparison is always football, baseball. Contracts up with a team, you go to a new team, you got to play that team, you got to get tackled by him, you got to get struck out by him, you get hit by a pitch by him, and this is just our sport. Unfortunately, we're coaching other people. Now, if you were in the corner, Dean, and you were like screaming, he does this bad, he does that bad, like something like personal, like that's pretty fucked up. But
well, no. But here's my thing. Like somebody asked me about that. They said, oh, what an advantage that you must have now because like some of the things that he may do bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the last time I worked with Gilbert was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. If he if he couldn't figure out the things that he does bad and fix them,
that's his fault.
That's not my fault. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, I think it's one thing if we're in camp and like this fight was announced and I did the first 6 weeks with Gilbert Burns and then did the next 6 weeks with Sean Brady, like that's one thing, right? But if it's been like a year and a half, 2 years, and you still making the same mistakes, like you still got a shitty jab, that's not my fault.
People are going to see that anyway.
Yeah.
But if you were in the corner going, he's afraid of clowns, wear the big red nose to the cage, and that's a different story.
Well, Ryan, I found, and I've been really high on this whole timing thing in life, and I've been trying to grow spiritually and intellectually. And I find that, fighters tend to get really personal with things that don't really have a lot to do with the outcome, but in order to justify the outcome, They tend to take things very personally. So, and this is how you could tell, because like when I'm on the desk and I go, oh man, I think he's going to lose, and then if he does lose, they're mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I say they're going to lose and they win, they can see I told you. They mad at me, like as if I had anything to do with the actual fight itself.
It's funny you say that. I had a situation where I had to come to terms and be real with myself. I have one knockout on my record, and one being knocked out once on my record. I was very proud of the fact that I was never knocked out, and I was convinced. I had a bad weight cut. I wasn't completely out. I was in Russia, and I just told myself for years that I got fucked. I went back and watched the fight last year, and I hadn't watched the fight. I was scared to, because I'm like you said. I don't want to come to terms with the fact that I just lost. I got knocked the fuck out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I had to watch it. I got dropped and I got knocked out. It's tough. I guess, but you know what? We should be tougher. That's how I feel about it. And I'm not any better. I'm making an excuse. Like I'm everything that's wrong with what we're trying to prove right here. It's just like, we work so hard, and just the thought of something not going our way after all that hard work and sacrifice, it's tough. But you know what? The sooner we come to terms with it, and this is easier for me talking now, I'm a little bit older, to these kids that are in the sport. The sooner you come to terms with it, you're going to let that shit go and you go on, you can win the next one. That's the best thing I could say.
That is the reality of it. Like, you have to be able to let those things go, because like fighters hold on to these irrelevant things, and they make them so relevant to just justify why a performance was bad. And a lot of the things that they're trying to a lot of the things that they're holding accountable for their losses are just not irrelevant. They're not irrelevant. It's like, you had a bad performance. You missed a blocking assignment. You know what I'm saying? You got taken down. Like, those are things that you're supposed to be working on. Like, it's got nothing to do with some of the things that they blame it on, especially like when they're like mad at people for picking against them. Like, it happens all the time. Like, in fact, like, and I don't know if this has a lot to do with it, but like even the commentators now can't stay in the same hotel with fighters, because fighters get mad at them for saying shit that they did. It's like, you did it.
Oh man, I know we talked about this last week too, but we'll get back on track. But like the Daniel Cormier, and who is it that he's feuding with now?
Joaquin Buckley,
yeah. So fighters need to just like they just could you imagine like an offensive line in football sucking wind, and then they're just the other team just running the ball down the middle, and the announcer's not saying, they're just beating them up the middle all day. Like,
I know.
Like, it's like that's what's happening. That's what's happening in the game. But I got to be honest with you, man. Daniel Cormier, I feel like he makes himself kind of an easy target with that stuff. So he says that, first of all, he says that for them to say Daniel's name, that's great clickbait. But then Daniel's response is always something, I'm Daniel Cormier, you didn't beat me. And he gives them that like somewhat sensitive response. And then of course they're going to call him out. You know why they're going to call him out? Because he's the big name, and they know that fight is never going to fucking happen. He's never going to fight them. So it's easy. It's like, he just needs to just go the other way with that. But yeah, I think that these fighters need to chill out with the response. They're being talked about, and like, yeah, shit, watching that fight, maybe I should learn how to box. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. Could you imagine if we lived in a world where, not like, what if all they were doing was saying all the positive stuff? Nobody's going to listen to them anymore.
I know. Well, so Phil Rowe was talking about that too. He was like, "Oh man, I don't like this commentary because they be so biased against me, and I don't like that because they." I'm like, I mean, that happens sometimes, but I mean, like literally, like it's your job to it's your job to be exciting. It's your, and you got to hold yourself accountable for your level of activity and your level of excitement. It's kind of up to you. Like, if you're not doing nothing and you're just kind of like cruising through a fight, like, and the commentators ain't talking about you, that's really on you. Yeah. It's not on them. It's on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta get over that shit.
Shit. We're supposed to be world-class badasses, and we're so sensitive of things.
I know. That's the one thing. That is the common knowledge in the industry from in everybody knows it, from the production people to the makeup people to coaches to everybody knows how sensitive fighters are. And the way they justify it is, well, you're not in the cage fighting.
Oh, dude.
Well, I mean, yeah, I get that. But the reality is that you signed up for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one made you. No one's making you go out there and fight another human being. And because you're doing that, it doesn't give you permission to be a jackass to people who are telling you the truth.
Oh my God.
But that's what happens. It's like, because they work so hard and they train so hard and they, live a shitty lifestyle because they want to be a fighter, because you want to be a fighter, that doesn't give you permission to be a jackass because you do those things.
Absolutely. Be someone to look up to, let it roll off your sleeves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something that would really be something that you can have kids look up to. The fact that you are doing these things and it is hard and people are talking and you're just letting it roll off your back and you're still excelling.
Yeah. Or laugh it off, and like, if people see that they can't shake you, they're not going to fuck with you no more. Like that's if you're this tough guy that you say you learn that in life, that's how it is. I don't know.
I'll tell you who the fighter is not very sensitive at all. And I attribute this to their ethnicity, because I just heard recently that Australians aren't very sensitive at all on anything. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of at the press conference a few weeks ago when Volkanovski was on stage. Some jackass got on the mic and was like, took his opportunity to try to make himself famous and said, "How does it feel to get knocked the fuck out by Islam?" And Volkanovski, like the true champ in Australia he is, was like, "You know what? I actually don't remember." And he just kind of laughed it off, like, "You know what? I don't really remember. I got knocked out. What do I remember this?" But the only thing I heard Australians get upset with and offended by is when you call a koala a bear. So if you're listening here, don't call a koala a bear, because that is the only way to offend an Australian.
I'm going to say that next time I tweet Craig Jones or koalas or bears.
Yeah. Hey, we should tweet that out with this
hashtag koalas or bears.
Yeah. Hilarious. So the fight this weekend, Burns and Brady. Any thoughts on it from your perspective?
I had Brady, but now you just said you're coaching him, so I don't know anymore. No, actually, I knew you guys had worked together in the past. I didn't know it was that in depth. However, I think that I have Brady going. When I first saw the fight at first glance, I was like, oh, Burns going to take him down, whatever. But I feel that Brady has gotten so much better since he lost to Bilal Muhammad, and he's going to he's going to create the angles that he needs to stop to not get bullied against the fence against Gilbert Burns and let his hands go. And he's going to be able to negate the grappling he needs to in order to just get by on an edge here. I don't think he's going to get out wrestled against the cage against Gilbert.
Well, time will tell. I would love to speak a little bit more on the fight, but not much.
He's going to jab?
Yeah. I will say this. It's such a pleasure to be able to work with John Marquez, his coach, who doesn't really, he's a Philly dude, man. Like, live in the hood, got his gym in North Philly in the hood. Like,
is that how you got connected with them, or just from around the UFC? Because you were from there?
It was really around the UFC. I think they knew that I had ties in Philly, so they was like, "Yo, let's make the connection." But John Marquez, he's obsessed with the game. He's obsessed with the game, and he's very intelligent and open-minded about the game. And me and him, we vibe on a different level in terms of how to approach fights. So I'm always down to vibe with people like that, because for me, this game is not about like individuals. It's about watching good performances. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more sexy on earth than watching a really good fight performance for me. And if I can attribute in any way to making that happen more often, then I'm going to do it. And the fact that I have, the resources, it's a strong, young, hungry fighter like Sean Brady who's willing to listen and do some of the things that we ask of him, and then you got another scientist like John Marquez who's willing to put the work in and study in and the dedication into his fighters. I'm like, yo, sign me up. And that's why I work with him. Honestly, like dudes be like, yo, how much you charge to work? I'm like, dude, all I want is the work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want the work. Like if you want to pay me, that's cool too, but I want the work because I want to see some great shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I be getting mad at like Izzy and them, because I know what they're capable of, but when they don't do it, I'll be like, yo, what happened to the work?
Yeah, I used to love just checking in with guys on the game plan and stuff like that. Like just putting you in and just seeing that work unfold is like, I feel like that's why we're martial artists. Like it's really an art. You know, I have this theory that why art is considered an art, because the public only sees the final product. So much shit goes into it to get to that final product. And when you see that art unfold the way you put that work in, it's the best. I can't explain it.
Yeah, man. I don't, it's hard to explain for me the process of the work, but it really is. I really look at approaching fights like as if like I'm a doctor. Like I have a couple of different analogies, but one would be like a doctor. Somebody comes in and they're sick, and I got to figure out why and how to make them better. And that's like one way of making a fighter better. But when it comes to a fight, I'm looking at it like an attorney trying to build a defense case against another person. So how do I build this case to win this fight? And that's how I look at it, like either like a doctor or an attorney. And I'm constantly just seeking new ways and better ways to make that happen. And when I have a fighter that's willing to go on that journey with me, I'm in. I'm like, yo, let's go. But if you want me to just hold pads for you so that you can, get your rocks off, I was like, I'd rather give you a hand job. Okay, maybe not that much, but that's really what it is to me. It's like, yo,
if that was the case, it's cool. If you did, that's totally cool.
I'm like, yo, but I want I'm down for the process. I love the process of making fighters better and watching them win fights.
You know what? One of the things I love about game planning, and it doesn't happen like this in every fight, but it does. I just love when you could take primary weapons away from a fighter or in your game plan. One person I think comes to mind is Dominic Cruz. Like he talks about taking big power right hands away from fighters, so he would throw head kicks to try to get them to keep their hand up for defense, and he took that weapon away. Just little things like that. How do you take weapons away? How do you put them in a front headlock to slow them down? When people could do that and then open up their game, I love when you could just cut things in half. Like it's just takes so much discipline.
Well, shout out Dominic Cruz, because he was one of the first guys to ever really start doing that. And not only did he do that with those kicks, like taking away their like strong right hands, but his footwork. His footwork allowed him to never really be directly in front of somebody and to steer them around the cage and place them where he wanted to, and so that he could get off his better weapons.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Dominic Cruz was one of the first guys to ever really use that type of footwork, because he recognized that he wasn't as fast as these guys or as athletic as these guys. So he took those weapons away. And that's one thing that, I got to give Awesome Zadie a lot of credit. A lot of people just see him as the goat shit guy, the karate combat guy, the buffoon who just, trying to, get his name out there. But he's a very intelligent martial artist. And when he's talking about fight, he's always talking about keep them from being athletic. Right? How do we keep somebody from being athletic? And that's your job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like as a fighter, that's your job.
That's what I needed to do all the time. That's why I love the front headlock, because I need to slow things down, and just how do you do things? I would always cheat into a boxing stance. Why is that? Because I knew my boxing was so much at a deficit than my wrestling. So I would cheat into a boxing stance in order to open up more for my boxing, and just gambled that my wrestling was going to be better. Like, how do I take things away? And so I love that. Keep him from being athletic. That's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah, I mean, and it really worked for his guys, and I just think that there's such a disconnect with the general mentality of fighters and some of the coaching, some of this type of coaching, because this is a different level of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Because most coaches are just kind of like train really hard with the best guys, and you'll get better. And
Yeah.
if you're good enough and intuitive enough, you will get better that way. But it's not a science to that. There's no formula to success for that other than rolling the dice.
Man, I wouldn't. I fell into that trap for a while, and it doesn't work. I wouldn't let my fighters fall into that. Like, and you know, I used to think, oh, just go spar with the best guys, and just, you know, you'll figure it out. But then I remember Mo goes to me, he goes, yo, you're vanilla right now because you're just trying to be in there. You're not even throwing anything. You're just trying to survive through the rounds, and you're just going through the motions. And I had fighters that too, like they had a lot of heart, put a lot of hard work in, but all they want to do was go with the best guys in the room. It's like, dude, you're not getting anything out of this because you're afraid to take shots. You're afraid to throw kicks. You're afraid to throw feints, afraid to throw combinations. You need to go, like Joe Rogan says, like his theory in getting better at jiu-jitsu, beat up on blue belts. It's like, hey, you got to go with the guys that are lesser and stuff, just to let yourself color outside the lines a little bit. It wasn't until I started doing that where I really noticed what I was able to do and like how to bring it up. You know, a lot of people don't want to do it.
Well, here's the reason why he's right about that. Like, you have to be able to be in a safe place to learn. Like learning, like training and learning are different, right? If you're training, like you're just kind of but learning, you got to be in a safe place to learn. And in order to be in a safe place to learn, you know, you're taking away those threats, which is why Joe Rogan is saying go with blue belts, because there's not a lot of threat to a blue belt. So now you can, like you said, you can color outside the lines without a tremendous amount of punishment. And that is a brilliant way to think about it. Now, the problem with that is that people are irresponsible.
True.
And when they get an opportunity to go with somebody lesser than them, they try to take that as an advantage. They use that to take advantage of them and go, oh, I'm going to kick their ass because when I was coming up, I got my ass kicked by everybody. So now it's my time to kick their ass. And that is the wrong approach to have. Like, you should be willing to go with lesser people to experiment and play and work on like different movements and just different feelings and learning how to, you know, get, you know, feel balance and grip fight, like all those little intangibles that you can play with when you're going with somebody lesser than you. People take advantage of it and they just go, fuck that, I'm gonna kick their ass.
You know, I had a good conversation with Glover when he was living down here, and he made sure, he's like, man, I know I was there and people tried to beat my ass, you know, and then, you know, things evened out when he moved to the pit and everything like that. But then he said, when I had my own place, and I mean, look at his training partners outside of Alex, but before that, like, you know, who was he training with? And like, not a whole lot of big names, but he's like, I took it upon myself. If I was going to get better, I needed to make them better, to raise up the crop in the room and to raise up the talent around me so that we all can get better. And that's pretty much what you should do. Like right now, I'm training jiu-jitsu and I'm training with a lot of guys that are, you know, purple and blue belts, and same story. I'm trying to live by his theory because they got to be better in order to make me better, because then they're going to push me as opposed to just smashing them with the same crap I could do over and over again.
Yeah, I think part of the reason with like people getting better and learning is that they don't understand education from a learning perspective on how to get better at things. And they attribute their progress to the wrong things, right? And that's easy to do, right? Because like you can't really put a finger on it sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like you can't really put a finger on why your jiu-jitsu got better overnight. So you just attribute it to, man, I was going twice a day every day.
Yeah,
but maybe that wasn't the reason why. But like, because you don't really know the reason why, you didn't do like a full-on scientific experiment with, you know, variables and constants. But the reality is like learning is a process that is very, it's, you know, getting that education is very specific, and it's not as just vague as just showing up and doing what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Can you get better that way? Yeah. Like some guys do get better that way, but that's probably not the best way to learn how to do something. because learning how to do something is very specific.
Amen.
Amen. Props to that. All right, so we're running out of time, but there's one other thing that I wanted to catch up on with you, because like this has been kind of a hot topic in the news, and that is Merab. Merab he's out of control, man. I don't know if it was the Worlds this past weekend where he ran up in the crowd and tried to fight somebody. I don't know, but he's out of control. Part of me loves it, and the other part of me is just like don't want to see him get in trouble. And I want to make sure that he shows up to the fight and gives himself a good chance to become a world champion. But a part of me loves the fact that he is so outgoing and so charismatic and is not afraid of the world or his position in the world. But Dana White seems to hate him right now. And hate is a strong word. I don't want to say hate, but he said he's been very hard on him. He's been very hard on Merab. Like Merab posted a picture of his cut and Dana went.
He did. Yeah. I didn't think he needed to post a picture either, but I look at it like this. Merab is fighting their superstar right now coming up. And really outside of Alex Pereira, what has the UFC had in the last 8 months that has really sold?
Not much, huh?
Yeah. So
not like any really big ones, right?
Yeah. So Sean O'Malley, like that's like they need something else outside of Alex Pereira right now, especially someone who can speak English.
Well, that's the thing too, man. Like think about this. Like if
they need the fight to happen, is basically
that's true. Maybe that's why Dana was so upset because if Merab posts a picture of his cut and then the commission gets wind of that and goes, man, we can't let this guy fight.
Yeah,
that goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be able to step up to make a compelling, interesting fight for Sean O'Malley?
I don't know. I guess I'm so invested into this one. I can't think of.
Yeah, like I don't even know who's next.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a deep division, but I don't know who's next in terms of who would make sense in terms of name value. There's only one person in terms of name value that I could imagine them maybe asking to do it if the fight didn't happen. And I would actually kind of like it.
Who?
Dominick Cruz.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down with the Dominic.
Actually, so I'm wrong about this. So I mean, Umar Nurmagomedov would certainly deserve it, but he wouldn't be able to. There's no way he would do this type of turnaround.
Yeah.
But I would think somebody like Dominick Cruz might.
Mm-hmm. I think he would.
Yeah.
I think that everyone's just so invested emotionally into this fight.
Yeah.
You talk about him being charismatic. My favorite thing that Merab has ever done was when Sean came in the cage to Sterling with his Michael Jackson, and he gave it to Merab thinking he was hot shit, and Merab put it on, didn't give it back to him. Like, oh, that was
and he wore it around for like months.
He was like, oh shit. That was a great move. That was a great move.
He wore it for months.
Yeah.
that might take the cake of all time favorite moments of Merab, and that is stealing Sean O'Malley's.
Well, he didn't steal it though; it was given.
He took Sean O'Malley's Michael Jackson jacket, and never gave it back to him. and Sean O'Malley was like, "Man, I thought he was one of the security guys." Sean O'Malley's low key pretty funny, man. He's like funny in an innocent, nerdy way.
Yeah. Actually, I like Sean a lot. Like he's clearly, like, I read somewhere that he's like doing investment properties and stuff like that. So he's young and he's not stupid with his money. Like he's not a stupid person. He's got his own YouTube channel and everything. I think I'm not into a lot of like the glitz and whatever, but I think he's good for the sport overall. I really do.
No, he is, and he's the UFC's biggest star right now, you know, in the absence of Conor McGregor. So props to Sean O'Malley, Tim Welch, his entire team, everybody who's gotten him to where he is. But more than anything, props to him for always answering the call and stepping up in the big moments, right? In the big moments, he's really showed and proved, even when no one thought he could. I mean, I'm not sure he won the fight against Petr Yan, but the fact that he put up the fight that he did, the fact that he put up the fight that he did put up was tremendous. Then him knocking out Aljo and then just pitching a shutout against Chito Vera was all just stepping up to the plate. So
And that's
he's
why
UFC's biggest star.
That's why they need Merab to carry his own weight with this promotion right now.
And I think Merab has, right? Merab has.
Oh, I absolutely do, but they can't have him fucking up. They can't.
Yeah. Don't fuck this up, Merab. Don't fuck it up. We need
I think Dana's kind of like, oh, God, I can't have Alex drop down to 135. Please, you just got to make it.
Yeah. Well, all right, my man. Always a pleasure talking to you week after week.
Always.
We're going to do it again next week. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you think. And on that note, this court is adjourned.